Sten, we're live.
Thank you, Larry, the Liberty Guy. Welcome to another edition of In the Dugout. Mike Stenhouse here, your host. All right, pretty big day for a couple big reasons today in Rhode Island. So we'll go with the Rhode Island cap today, unless it matches my blue attire, I guess. All right, so did Rhode Island just get an upgrade, or are we about to get an upgrade any hour now in the flip-flop of governors? Or are we going to be disappointed again? We'll talk about that. You heard that here first. I'll explain that to you in a minute. Governor Cuomo, another guy. We're talking governors today. We're also going to be mentioning Texas Governor Abbott a little bit later. He's doing something pretty forward-looking when it comes to COVID out there in Texas, as you would expect from Texas. So we'll talk about him. I'm going to give you some thoughts on the Governor Cuomo situation. You might even be surprised by them. And then I've got a bunch of other stuff. We're going to sort of start a new feature today, batting practice, quick hits. Before we get to our main guest or our main topic, since we're in the dugout baseball theme, we're going to call it quick hits. A lot of quick hits. I like showing you some funny cartoons and things like that. So we're going to take a little batting practice before we get to our main guest today, before we play ball with Justin Katz, our center's research director, editor of the Ocean State Current, and our weekly Tuesday feature with him, the good, the bad, and the interesting with regard to legislation introduced this year in the General Assembly. So we also got some really good guests the next 2 days coming up here on this show. Actually, 3 features tomorrow. Tomorrow, I think we're going to have ready for you our first ever new short video feature. It's going to be video that'll be out on its own on the Ocean State Current for you to view, but we're going to play them as we create them here on the show, called Liberty Bites, little 4 or 5 minute pieces on specific issues, and something that's quicker to view rather than looking at an hour-long show like this. So hopefully our first Liberty Bite tomorrow. We've got 2 great guests tomorrow. First, former editor, owner, operator of the Valley Breeze newspaper, which covered all northern towns in the Blackstone Valley area in Rhode Island, Tom Ward, close friend of soon-to-be Governor McKee. He covered him professionally as editor of the Valley Breeze. So we're going to talk to Tom Ward about the new governor. What does he know about him? What does he expect from him? Based on his time as mayor, because don't remember, he was mayor of Cumberland, and that was one of the areas covered by the Valley Breeze. So he'll be on the first half of our show, and then we welcome back to our show nationally renowned, world-renowned economist Steve Moore from the Heritage Foundation, and he's going to be talking about the theory that's behind this massive stimulus. It's not a COVID stimulus. It's just you know what it is? It's called modern monetary theory. They're just throwing money around, and that's not by accident. It's part of a new, disproven and false idol, but it's part of a monetary theory that the left is trying to take hold in America, and Joe Biden appears to be more than happy to give it a try. So Steve Moore has written extensively on the topic, and he will talk to us tomorrow about modern monetary theory. Then on Thursday, we have somebody else from the Heritage Foundation. We have an elections expert who's going to talk about H.R. 1. This is the new bill, the first bill that Nancy Pelosi's House of Representatives put in that could forever change elections. My comment, for the worse, if enacted. You will not believe what's in this bill if you haven't been watching. So tune in Thursday, and we're going to have Hans von Spakovsky. You've seen him on Fox News and other cable news. He's the election expert at Heritage. And then, of course, our regular Thursday afternoon Dr. Andrew Bostom, to talk all things COVID. So that's our lineup for today and for the week. It's really quite a lineup. I think it could be the best lineup we've ever had on the show. All right. So first, I want you to take a look at this. So this is the big news today in Rhode Island. Of course, the Senate has confirmed Gina Raimondo. I'm not paying attention. If any of you know, I don't know that she has officially resigned yet. I don't know exactly when Dan McKee will be sworn in, but all that should happen within the next few hours, we expect. So by the time we eat dinner or lay our heads on our pillows and say our prayers tonight, Dan McKee will be the new Rhode Island governor. A little bit more on him later, but I want to remind you that you heard it here first. Right? We back on November. I went back. Look at this. Let's look at this tweet on November 17th. This is a tweet from our center promoting this show, where I told you, and I told you then, that our Washington, D.C. Sources told us that Gina Raimondo would be the nominee for Commerce Secretary. It later came out that she might be the nominee for Health Secretary or something like that. We told you over 2 months ago that 2.5 months ago, she would be the Commerce Secretary appointment. We were the only ones that said it back then, and we got it right. So real news on this show right here. Real news, the news you won't hear from anybody else. So again, more on Dan McKee in a bit. I'm going to go through some Providence Journal headlines, but as we continue our quick hit on batting practice, today is also a big day in Rhode Island in that it's a special election to approve those 7 bond referenda that will have a face value of $400 million. We're in a pandemic, folks. And they just want to keep on fiddling that same old tax and spend tune. You'll see that on the video I'm about to play, where Larry the Liberty Guy is about to play you. But I want to remind you that I'm going to go vote right after the show. I'm going to go vote tonight. I'm voting against those. Hold on, Larry. Don't go yet. I want to show them something first. You can go to rifreedom.org/reject. where you can watch this video, share this video, but you can also see our media release on it. This video produced by Dr. Stephen Scoley. So let me stop sharing and let me have Larry the Liberty Guy play you why you should vote no if you haven't voted yet on all 7 spending bond questions. Go ahead.
Vote no on all 7 spending bonds. We spent enough money. Massive tax and spend policies, which have continued for years, are forcing many Rhode Islanders to leave the state. To prevent further taxation for Rhode Islanders, we must vote to reject all 7 questions on the March ballot. Rhode Island already suffers from far too much debt. The $400 billion in bonds are estimated to cost $642 million, according to the Secretary of State's office. The economic disaster as a result of the catastrophic pandemic is another reason not to borrow money. Look, debt is just delayed taxation. Despite a crushing medical and economic pandemic, Rhode Island politicians just keep on fiddling that same tax and spend tune. Vote no on all 7 spending bonds. We spent enough money.
All right, thank you, Larry. So, if you're live on YouTube right now, go ahead and put in the comments, and I'll read some of them back. Have you voted today, or will you vote today, and how did you vote? I was listening on the radio, and every person that called in said they voted against all 7, with the exception of one person who said they voted for the housing money. But listen, we know what's going to happen. We know these bonds are going to pass in Rhode Island. Bonds always pass in Rhode Island. Bonds are the chicken way out for politicians. Rather than budget the money in the state budget. They know that you'll vote for it, so they push it off onto us, the voters, and we're stupid enough to vote them through every year. So it's just they should be reserved for the largest capital expenditure projects. They should not be used to advance political agendas the way they're being used now. It basically takes lawmakers off the hook, and it's just another reason lawmakers are chicken. They're just chicken, and they try not to make any difficult decisions. Okay. Thanks, Larry, for that. So go ahead, put in the comments how you voted, and I'll read them back if you'd like me to, and I'll get a poll. But listen, these are going to pass. Why? Because the special who's benefiting from all this, right? Who benefits from all this spending? The union workers, special interest agendas, the radical environmentalists, these organizations and workers. And listen, we would love to see construction workers work. But wouldn't it be better if construction workers were working because our state was booming and private businesses or private people were investing in private sector buildings and whatever else, warehouses, roads, because of economic growth? But instead, because we have such a terrible business climate in this state, politicians, it's true. Everyone tells me the private sector unions and the government unions run the state house. It's an absolute fact. The private sector unions want more dues paying government employees, and the private sector unions want more construction jobs. So because we don't have a booming economy, because we have such horrid policies in this state, they take the money from you in the form of a bond in order to keep their private sector unions happy. And listen, we have nothing against the union members. We want them to work. But again, they're just doing it backward. Rather than creating an environment where this stuff will happen organically and naturally through the private sector, government is taking charge and taking control and taxing us, and with these bonds, future generations. So these same special interests, I think there is 60,000 government employees in Rhode Island at the state municipal level. I'm not sure how many private sector union members there are, at least tens of thousands more. So that's almost 100,000 people who are almost for sure going to go out and vote today, because trust me, their unions are telling them, get out and vote. A lot of money coming our way, a lot of work for you, a lot of extra goodies for you, a lot to move our agenda forward. Get out and vote. There's no way we can overcome that. I'm going to vote just to make a symbolic gesture to vote against them right after the show. I hope you'll do the same. Okay, just a few little silly funnies I like to show. Last week this was the story about the Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola. They're all in now for this critical race theory, this white supremacy thing. Anything white is bad. So I guess Ted, the white polar bear, is out of work. He just doesn't fit the critical race theory. Okay, let's go on to governors a little bit here. We'll start with Cuomo. We'll go to Abbott in Texas, and then we'll end up with McKee. And then we'll have Justin Katz on in a little while. So this is a good one. As you know, Andrew Cuomo is under fire from a lot of angles. Not only is there a scandal, which to me is the larger scandal, of hiding nursing home deaths. He made a decision, don't know who had advised him, to send COVID, and this is early in the pandemic, this is a year ago, to send seniors living in nursing homes who went to the hospital, tested positive, actually sent them back to the nursing homes. Cuomo gets a lot of, is under fire for this right now. But that Gina Raimondo and Department of Health Secretary Nicole Alexander Stubb pretty much did the same thing. I mean, we showed it on this show last spring. They had a directive where, at least in the veterans' home, we couldn't find anything for the nursing homes, but at least in the veterans' home, infected staff were allowed to go back in while they were tested positive. We know we had massive amounts of deaths last spring in the veterans' home. So Gina Raimondo does not have her hands washed clean of this either, but the local media, being the lapdogs they are, decided to say nothing about it. And it never really made it to any national attention. But Andrew Cuomo, obviously, is now catching his due for that decision. And I'm sure he didn't realize what a terrible decision. He didn't want to kill seniors. Who would? But he made a mistake. But of course, nobody in politics ever admits to this mistake. So there was a cover up, and now all that's being exposed. But as I prematurely shared with you earlier here, that he's also under fire for sexual harassment claims. I guess there's 2 women now. And and this funny cartoon, his aides say, no, you can't send her to a nursing home and get her out of the limelight, get her out of the media, get her out of a lawsuit, maybe even have her face a bad fate over there. She's only 36, Mr. Governor. You can't send her there. But let me comment on that a little bit. I don't know if you're a Republican or conservative like Justice Kavanaugh, or a Democrat, or anybody else who's been accused. I'm sorry, but I don't agree with this trend that years and years after something happened, that a comment, pointed as it may be, or an innocent, if I put my arm around someone because I've been working with a while and I feel kinship there, it's not an emotional, sexual thing, that years later people can come back and claim that somebody made an improper sexual advance or was harassed by some otherwise, well, again, I don't know if I want to use the word innocent, but for some really non-harmful comment, joke, or gesture. I mean, what really is sexual harassment? In the workplace, at the worst level, it's when you demand some kind of favor in exchange for your job security or job promotion or pay increase or something like that. That is horrid. And that must, if that's what happened, then that must be, then people must be held accountable, especially in government. In the private sector, that's a civil lawsuit. In government, it's a violation of rights, and it cannot be accepted. So if Governor Cuomo did that, but none of the reports I heard had anything to do with job security, that he was being playful. You let your guard down sometimes. I think we can all understand that, can't we? You let your guard down, you tell a joke, you make a comment, you do a hug, maybe even do a kiss on the cheek. I mean, we all do that. We've all done that. We've all accepted that from others. That's not sexual harassment. I'm sorry. Now, if someone goes to the governor and says, Governor Cuomo, please don't do that again, or please don't say something like that again in my company, and then he keeps doing it, okay, now maybe you're into harassment. Maybe. But to come back years later and say some joke, some comment, some gesture, even if it had a little sexual connotation to it, I don't like it. I don't think any male, female should be accused of sexual harassment for that. If it really bothered you enough at the time, you should have said something at the time. That's my view on it. It's the same position, so we got to let this process play out. Cuomo can't be convicted in the media. Just like we said, Kavanaugh shouldn't have been, or anyone else who's been accused of such. You know, this, you know, it's just, you know, whether it's cancel culture, just everybody getting offended at words in such deeply profound ways. We have got to change this culture, folks. This is not healthy. It is not healthy for our society, for everybody to be looking for some reason to be offended, to be a victim, or to try to cancel somebody else. I don't know if that's what's happening here with Andrew Cuomo. I haven't really studied all the reports, but it doesn't matter. I'm making more of a general comment here that Cuomo, like Kavanaugh, like any other man or woman, deserves to have all sides of their story told. And we should not be, and you know, to see the way the media, to see the way his political opponents are trying to make something that some, again, I don't know what the right word is. Innocent's not the right word. They're just some non-harmful, let's put it that way, innocuous, maybe something that doesn't hurt you. An innocuous gesture, comment, joke could all of a sudden become sexual harassment years later, just like the way some innocent comment, gesture, or joke can get you canceled. It's not good for our society, folks. I'm sorry. And it has nothing to do with Me Too, women, anything. You know, this covers, I'm covering here a broad range of topics. You've all seen it. Sticks and stones can break my bones, but words can never hurt me. We talked about this with Judge Flanders and his client, that Barrington doctor, who was accused of just yelling a racial slur at somebody after he was attacked with a hammer, after the doctor was attacked with a hammer. He got mad and he yelled something. And guess who got prosecuted? Not the guy who hit him with a hammer, not the sticks and stones can break my bones guy, but the words can never hurt me guy. The doctor got prosecuted and convicted. Fortunately, he wasn't sentenced to a hate crime. I don't know. This is not a good place to go, folks. Not a good place to go. Okay, a couple other quick hitters here. Here is, you know, Dr. Boston, who was on our show, you know, put this tweet out yesterday. So he's going to talk Thursday about whether or not we really should be continuing mask mandates in this state, given the rapid decline in cases. Now, the alarmists, the spread the fear crew was trying to say, oh, you know, there could be a little uptick we're seeing because of these new variants. You know, Dr. Boston doesn't feel that way, but it's interesting here. Rhode Island has a higher per capita death rate than all 13 states that don't have a statewide mask mandate. Interesting. So we'll talk on Thursday with the doctor. And then there's this, you know, again, this equity, you know, this equity. It's one thing to have equality under the law and equality when it comes to treatment of any kind. Equity is an outcome. Our Constitution does not guarantee outcomes. It guarantees supposedly equal treatment under the law. So now this equity thing is even impacting vaccines. Basically, the bottom line is, should minorities, I guess, or should your skin color matter when it comes to who gets the vaccine first? And again, to me, this is just more of this victim wokeism that places importance on the wrong aspects of our lives. I'm sorry, it does. And you know, I think most states have done a pretty good job saying the elderly, the most vulnerable, the frontline workers, healthcare workers, and then those with pre-existing conditions should be the first to get it. But yeah, other people want to say, well, after that, your skin color should matter. I just can't, because that's how we can guarantee equity in the outcome. It's not the way it should work, folks. It's not the way it should work. All right. Final topic before we bring in Justin Katz. So some really, this was this is the front page of today's Providence Journal. And both of them were long articles. The first one talks about Raimondo leaving a big bucket list of open items for McKee. The second one, there was a press conference yesterday outlining the massive amounts of money that the federal government's going to be just creating out of thin air and throwing around to the states. And basically, I'm going to be commenting on Governor McKee's comments in both of these, even though on this second one over here, I have Cicilline highlighted because it shows the attitude. All they want in return, the people, he's claiming, is for Washington to do its part and get them the relief that they need right now. Is that what you want? Is that what you want? Help from Washington? Have we lost the spirit of rugged individualism and self-dependence? Or do Rhode Islanders really just want relief and dependence from Washington? So I was disappointed in the way Dan McKee responded in both of these articles. You know, I'm sure you'll remember, how many years ago was it? 2014, when Raimondo took office, that we had high hopes. She had gone against the government unions and passed some much ballyhooed, although less effective than it was touted as, but still she went against the unions and passed some statewide pension reform. And a lot of people thought she wasn't going to be your typical Democrat. She wouldn't go as far to the left. She might be one of those more moderates that, if you're going to be a Democrat, that conservatives like us would hope for. But that quickly changed. She was a major disappointment. She went quickly to the dark side and quickly accepted, little by little, the progressive left agenda. And I think right now you could say that Gina Raimondo is among the most progressive governors in the country. Very disappointing. Will Dan McKee be the same? He's not naturally a socialist, far left liberal. But I got to tell you, everything I've been hearing him say, everything I read in the paper, some of the actions he takes certainly makes it look like he's not going to be able to stand up to the socialist left in this state. And why is that? Not because he's, you know, these people do not, just look how it worked out for Gina Raimondo. They're not here to do what's best for the state. They're here to do what's best for their political career. And Gina Raimondo made the calculation, well, I don't care if Rhode Island suffers. I'm going to pretend I believe all these other reasons that we're doing the right thing by the state. But what I'm really trying to do is check all the Democrat, liberal check boxes so I can get an appointment to DC someday. And it worked. I can get reelected A. Now, McKee had his chance years ago when he ran against Reaganburg in the Democrat primary for lieutenant governor to really stand up and call out the progressive left agenda. He's supposedly been a big advocate for small businesses. And the progressive left agenda is anti-business. But McKee refused to do that then, and I think he's going to refuse to do it now. When I heard in the one article, McKee saying, quote, about climate change, we have not just a moral obligation to protect our children and theirs, but also an economic imperative to take action. Folks, that is far left talk right there. That's kowtowing to the progressive left because Dan McKee apparently has made the calculation that in order to get reelected in a year and a half, he's going to need a certain amount of votes from the progressive left. It's my read. I hope I'm wrong. He's not taking a position on the TCI gas tax. We'll talk more about that in future shows. He's not taking a position on a lot of things. So we are going to learn more. I'm going to keep the door open here. I'm going to keep somewhat of an open mind here. And then when it comes to the 1.7 billion in spending, supposedly Rhode Island's share of the stimulus, federal stimulus package is going to be 1.7 billion, even though we only are showing a $300 or $400 million deficit. And McKee says, what did he say? I'm trying to find his quote, but anyway, he just said this is an amazingly good thing for Rhode Island. Wrong. Wrong. If we squander that money and just spend it on more government programs, more state aid, it's only being a one-time influx. What are we going to, we're not going to get that influx next time. Think of the alternative. We have the worst business climate. Dan McKee says he's a small business advocate. We have the worst business climate in America. What if you use that extra 1 billion, 1.5 billion, the extra that apparently we're going to get, and use it to reduce taxes, to create a better business climate in this state? Use that extra money to improve our state's long-term prospects instead of using that money to keep digging us deeper into that spending pit. Just like we're doing, probably will pass today with the bonds. Just going to keep spending. You can't spend your way out. So nothing from Dan, cheering the money, nothing about Dan McKee and using that money to create a better business climate or a better overall future. It's all about spending money. Dan McKee appears to be just like your typical Democrat liberal in this regard. We will see. We will keep our mind open. But I'm not encouraged at this point. All right. Joining us for our regular Tuesday feature is, I don't know, is he Clint Eastwood? Are you Clint Eastwood? The good, the bad, and the interesting? that was a Clint Eastwood show, wasn't it?
It was a
The good, the bad, and the ugly?
Spaghetti Western, yeah.
Yeah, great Western. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I love Clint Eastwood. All right, what do you got for my cap today first, Justin?
Well, today I'm talking mostly about overarching government. So I got my tricorn hat.
See, this is the way to have fun, folks. See, all my other guests, most of them are wet noodles. They didn't even want to wear a hat or put some. This is great. This is like, he actually brings a hat with the theme.
Yeah,
how cool is that?
Well, everybody knows I'm more like a mascot than a player in a team. So, so when I'm in the dugout, I have to be in costume. But I can.
That is awesome. I hope you didn't go out and buy that. Did you have it?
No, it was cheap though. It's just costume wear.
All right.
I'm trying to find an excuse to wear it out of the house, but I think I'll probably get in trouble from the family.
Let's see. Turn a little sideways so I can see it a little bit. Oh, there we go. Okay, because head on, you can only just see a black.
Yeah, I wanted to get an authentic one, but they were hundreds of dollars. I don't know how those colonists afforded that kind of a hat.
Yeah, I just watched a show on Netflix last night with I was noticing the guy's tricorn hat. He was, anyway. Okay, so before we get into your bills, I just want to remind our viewers that we have a website you can go to. It's called RI Freedom. You can see it right up here, rifreedom.org/bills. And it's not, we don't spend, we don't go through every bill, but of the bills we're made aware of or we happen upon and we think they're interesting, we put them on here for you to track so you can look at them. You can see right now we have 51 bills on here for you to look at that we think are of some importance. It has the bill number or the name, whether we have rated it yet as a bill we want to oppose or support. You can see some of these down here. And then you can filter for bills over here. So Justin, we're gonna start today with what bills? I'm just gonna show our viewers how to do this while you give me a bill number. So what are we gonna start with? Interesting, good, or bad?
So let's start with the good. It's going to be 5316.
5316. All right, so you just put that in there.
And it's
Hit enter.
also 0046, which you could do or.
Wait a minute, what was that? 5316?
5316 or 0046.
All right, we'll just look at that one. So here's a bill, and you can adjust these. It bans the use. All right, go ahead. You tell me what it is. So again, you can do this, and when we look at the next bill, we'll show you what to do. But go ahead, Justin. What is? I don't know this bill.
So this one touches on a long time topic of the center's, a long time bugbear, corporate handouts. So it would basically the intent is to ban the use of corporate handouts in the state. They're going to start with poaching companies, where you actually go out and tell a company in another state, we'll give you incentives to leave your state and come to ours. So what they want to do is they want to set up a nationwide coalition. It's a nationwide effort. I think every state has somebody putting in this bill.
It's a compact, right?
Compact,
we had David Place on this a few weeks ago to talk about this. All right, go ahead. Yep.
Yeah. So to start out with, it would just stop the poaching, but the compact would try to think of other ways to stop corporate giveaways. Like we love in Rhode Island. That's our whole commerce corporation seems to be about corporate giveaways. What's interesting, I almost labeled this as the interesting for this week, because in the House, it's all Republicans. As you mentioned, David Place, Roberts is a conservative Democrat, Chippendale, Quattrochi, Filippi. But in the Senate, it's all progressives. The Senate version is Sam Bell.
All right, let's look at that one. So you go back to the filter, you clear it. And what's the Senate version?
0046.
This is how easy it is, folks, to go right in here. Okay, so it's the exact same bill?
Yep. I haven't seen a difference between them. So it's the same bill, progressives in the Senate, Republicans in the House. Interesting dynamic. I think it's one of at this point, it kind of marries that free market impulse of the right and the kind of anti-corporate impulse of the left. I don't think, if it were implemented, I don't think that would last very long, but it makes it interesting for the moment. And I think what's going on here is the Democrats and the mainstream Democrats, like they realize that their policies, their regulations, their taxes are strangling business. And so what they want to do is have win-win, where they strangle business on one hand and then they buy them off with corporate subsidies on the other. That's what the insiders are doing. So the conservatives are saying, no, let's just, as we've always said, and you especially have always said, let's just make it easier to do business in the state, and then we don't need handouts. Whereas the progressives are saying, hey, why are we making it easier for them anyway? We ought to just keep smacking them. So, but for now, we're kind of aligned, and I think that's a nice thing we ought to celebrate.
All right, I agree with that, but I want to add another view into the discussion there. So I think on the conservative side, my view is we don't believe that any business should get a handout unnecessarily from the state, and because it makes an uncompetitive playing field. Right. If you're in the XYZ industry and you're getting a handout, what about the other companies that are in the XYZ industry in your state? They're not getting a handout. So it's unfair. Right. We believe in a level free market playing field. Right. Agree with that. Right.
And it gives government the ability to say, we're going to favor this company and not this company.
Yeah, because you're an insider. Yeah. Or because you knocked on a door and
you're bought off.
Lobbyists. So, be bought out. Now, on the liberal side, I think is where I might disagree a little, but it's a good, interesting discussion. I'm not sure that, well, maybe what you say, but also I think the larger motivation, in my view, would be they just want that money spent on social services rather than giving it to rich companies. Let's take that same amount of money and let's give it away to more social services to make more people dependent on us. What do you think of that?
No, I think that's right. I think what you see on the left and on the Democrat side is that the mainstream Democrats understand that they're killing the economy, and they want to try to leverage that to buy off companies and try to alleviate some of that pain. Whereas the progressives like Sam Bell are, just the idea that somebody might be making a profit who isn't an avowed progressive is horrible to them. So they don't even want to, and they don't understand economics. So they don't want to help
Yeah.
Anybody. They just take the money. Yeah, why are we giving them money?
Yeah, right.
They'll
All right,
come
so I
anyway.
just want to show our people, if you click on the bill, it opens up a new window and you can look at a summary of the bill and actually see the action. So this bill has been referred to Senate Finance. Now, again, the first bill number was, Justin, again, 5316.
It was, hold on. Yeah, 5316. And just so you could do or on that window and you could filter
Oh,
and,
you
and look
can?
at them
All
both
right.
at the same time.
All right, now this one is scheduled. Oh, this is scheduled. The House version, which David represents, is scheduled for a vote today. No, yes, scheduled for a vote today. They had a hearing on the 26th. Oh no, it's happening. It's hearing today. All right, I thought I heard. Well, the hearing on that bill is probably going on right as we speak. So
Yep.
Okay. All right. What's so that's the interesting. Where are
No,
we
that
going?
was, that was the good.
Oh, that was the good. Oh, okay. That was the good.
It gets better from there, or worse from there. So the bad this week is 5012, and the Senate is 0002.
So I can do that.
Yeah, you
No,
can do
didn't-
or.
Didn't look like it. Oh, I see. I see over there. 5012 or, and just put
No,
it
no,
in
go
there.
down below.
Oh, I see.
There you go.
0002. 0002.
Yep.
Okay, there's the two bills.
And so
Oh,
in the,
this one. Oh, yeah, this one. Yeah.
in the House, you've got Slater and O'Brien, who aren't really top legislators, but in the Senate, it's Goodwin, Ruggiero, the Senate President, McCaffrey, the Majority Leader. So here it's kind of a leadership bill. So this one might actually go somewhere in the General Assembly this time around. What this one does is it imposes new staffing requirements on nursing homes, with really stiff penalties for failure to meet those requirements. And it also kind of dictates how they'll use increases, giving it away to the unions mainly as pay increases. What sticks out to me about this is just the degree of micromanagement. I mean, it's talking about how you need, this is a quote, 4.1 hours of direct nursing care per resident per day, with 2.8 hours that are provided by certified nurse assistants. So this again is the unionized CNAs and stuff trying to get their give me. But it strikes me as this. It's kind of like our casinos. The businesses actually aren't providing the services that when you start to get government this intrusive. It's more like the businesses are just contractors and the government's providing the services, and it's kind of a big step toward socialism. And I don't know why anybody expects that to work out well for anybody.
This bill is fake news. I'm going to put it that way. Rhode Island does not have a nursing home staffing shortage. I think we're above national averages. But they're trying to play on our emotional strings coming off a pandemic or not, saying, oh, the poor seniors in nursing homes, and we need to have more people, more staff there. Well, that sounds good. But these nursing homes and assisted living, these congregate care facilities are running on very thin margins, and any extra staff they hire is going to potentially put them out of business. I've talked to owners. What this bill is about, just like you were, implying right there, it's a way to guarantee more union jobs, dues paying union jobs. I don't know how many extra hundreds of workers or thousands there'll be if that nursing homes will be forced to hire, but every one of them will be paying dues to their government union. And that's all this is about. It's a ruse. They're playing on your emotions. They're creating fake news in order to line their own union coffers. What do you say to that, Justin Katz?
Oh, I think that's absolutely correct. And what I find very striking about this is the stiffness of the penalties. On your first offense, you have to pay the government a fee of 2 times the cost of your missing staff hours. And then if you have an offense for 3 quarters in a row during the year, you start to lose your Medicaid reimbursements. It's almost like they've deliberately creating a spiral that will trip up companies and just throw them into what they don't give an option. Again, another step towards socialism. But I think that's exactly it. The unions unionized a body, and we fought against it at the center, unionized a body of people who didn't need to be unionized, but they have to give them something for that. And so that's what this is.
So and even bigger than that, this is the left's playbook now. And it's amazing. You know, we've talked often on this show about the progressive land of make-believe, or the socialist never land of make-believe. This is it. They create a false crisis. All of a sudden, there's a crisis that we have a shortage of congregate care staff, when we don't. But the compliant media, the advocates on the left, naive or ignorant lawmakers believe it. And all of a sudden, it becomes critical that we pass some oppressive legislation or special interest geared legislation to solve a problem that doesn't exist. I mean, just think of it nationally. You know, climate change. The world may be warming a little, it may not be, but we're certainly not seeing the floods and everything else. It's not worth destroying our economy right now. Think of the impeachment. They created these false narratives: Russia collusion, Ukraine calls, inciting insurrections. It was all fake. And these narratives, Justin, how do these narratives gain purchase? How does that happen?
They're just repeated and repeated and repeated. And that's really all it comes down to. And there seems like a surface plausibility. Everybody feels like, oh yeah, my grandmother had a hard time in a nursing home.
Yeah, they're very good at making it seem real. Yeah.
But it's as you say, it's made up. And to the extent it's not made up, it just ignores the economics of it. It ignores the problems that often government has created. And it becomes a spiral.
All right, so going back, it looks like the Senate bill has. Where am I? The Senate bill has passed the whole Senate. The House bill is in House Finance now. So this already has passed the ignorant Senate. And as you sort of predicted, Justin, because obviously all the big wigs, the big leadership in the Senate were backing it and sponsoring it. So obviously it was going to move. All right. So this is an incredibly bad bill. It's a land of make-believe bill. There is no problem like they describe here to fix. But yet, if it can put more money in their union masters' pockets, God damn, they're going to do it. All right. What do we got next, Justin?
So the interesting one is one, I have a gut aversion to, but for some reason I just can't take a position on it. So it's worth talking about. So it's the House is 5245.
5245.
And if you go down below, the Senate is 0016.
0016.
So what this does, and
well, again, these are companion bills, right? Just to, right. Often the same bills are put in the House and put in the Senate, right? So these are, in each of these three cases, these are companion bills, right?
Right. And one thing, for any viewers who try to follow legislation, one thing this tool that we're using makes really easy is to find those companion bills, because all you have to do is filter one of the columns, the name,
for the keyword,
the overview, right, for a keyword, and it brings it right up. Sometimes it'll bring up 10 or something, but it's pretty easy to go through them and find the same ones. So that's a nice feature of these. So what this does, it creates a pilot program to experiment with facilities, government run presumably, that would allow people to use illegal drugs that they got somewhere else from an illegal dealer, to use them there, and there would be somebody there in case there are overdoses and somebody to refer them for help. Now, given a lot of the characters here, I mean, our pal Josh Miller is on the Senate, the lead sponsor in the Senate. Given the characters, I'm inclined to be against this. But on the other hand, I don't know, it's just a weird dynamic. It makes you wonder if, should we not have illegal drugs if we're trying to make it be safe? Should we? How did we get in this position where government wants to open the doors and say, come on in and do something illegal so we can take care of you? I mean, it's a weird thing. We don't have.
So is this one of those compassionate, like free needles type programs? Same idea?
Well, the bill, as far as I saw, it didn't say we'll give you the needles, but it's ways
Yeah, but we'll give you a safe place to have drugs.
right. And there's somebody there if there's an overdose.
That was the idea behind the needles. If you're gonna do drugs, you might as well use a clean needle. And what they're saying here is, if you're gonna do drugs, we'll give you a safe place to do.
Right, and there'll be somebody there who can save your life if you overdose. Or I don't know. I'm against the idea of trying to make it easier to do something. We said, I mean, we made it illegal for some reason. To me, this bill, I mean, it makes for an interesting debate. To me, what it really points to, as so much legislation does, is the need to just go back to the basics. Why are people doing drugs? How do we address that problem? Not how do we make it easier to do something. I mean, you can almost see if this flies in 10, 20 years, the government will say, well, the pot thing worked out. Let's go into heroin.
But doesn't making it easier and safer only promote the activity?
Yeah, that's one of the problems. And so a bill like this brings you right back to that original question. Why do we have the war on drugs? And I'm not giving an answer to that. I know there's a lot of disagreement, libertarians and conservatives on that kind of thing. But that's why I put it in the interesting, because I just can't.
No, I never took you for one of those George Bush compassionate conservatives, Justin.
Oh yeah, no, I go back and forth. We have our staff meetings on Tuesday and Friday. It's Monday and Wednesday I'm the compassionate conservative. Tuesday and Friday I'm a libertarian. Thursday I just take off.
So come on, I'm going to force you.
But take a position.
Support.
Well, I don't know. If I had to pick, just because of the sponsors, I'd say no. I don't trust these people. I think no. I think what you do instead is you whatever effort you're going to put into this, you put into reconsidering all of the destruction of family, the destruction of jobs. That's where our head ought to be, to make society healthier, so that these things aren't going on.
Yeah, and it's the same reason I oppose, recreational marijuana use. It's just, while it sounds compassionate, and maybe to some extent, the societal harms of more drugs, more alcohol, more marijuana in our society cannot turn out good. It just cannot.
Well, and let alone, the idea that it's still illegal. So you're still engaging in illegal activity, even if the state creates a little zone that you can get away with it. And that, to me, is a real tension that could cause real problems for families and for people. Better to just advocate to make it legal if that's your position. But,
all right. So we're going to officially change our position to oppose?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll let you do it. All right. So this bill passed the sub-A. I don't know what was different about, but the sub-A passed the last week, the Senate, and the House bill. And again, this is, you guys can do all this right out there. rifreedom.org/bills, and just start clicking on the links. The House bill has had a hearing. It had a hearing in February. Now, so the sub-A was sent over to the House, right? So the way things work now, the Senate sub-A was sent over on the 23rd, and on the looks like they had a hearing on it that day, and have put it in the, we don't, none of us will know what happens to it box. If the House wants to bring it out of the mothballs at any time this year, they can, right?
Yep. Often very late at night on the last day of the session.
On the cattle call, last day of the session.
Yeah. It's all those chips to get the budget passed.
The Good, the Bad, and the Interesting by Justin Katz in his Tri-Horn.
Trihorn. Trihorn would be something quite different.
Okay. I'm not good at my revolutionary garb lingo. So anyway, Justin, thanks for being with us today and for all your work on this, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Tim. My pleasure.
Justin Katz. Oh, that was fun. I love that. Justin Katz went out and got a theme hat for the show. It's awesome, folks. All my guests, any of my guests, if you're out there watching, you want to be my guest, have some fun. I'll give you some extra time. We only slotted 15, 20 minutes with Justin because he wore that tricorn hat. We give him a little extra time today. All right, folks, we're gonna wrap up today. There are two outcomes we're expecting. I don't know if Larry, the Liberty guy's been monitoring the news. I don't know if the resignation of Raimondo or the swearing in of McKee has happened yet or has been officially scheduled yet. Jump in, Larry, if you know. But we know that's going to happen today at some point or this evening. We also know that the bond referenda will inevitably or indubitably pass. But I'm going to go vote right now. I'm going to end this and I'm going to go vote against all 7 bonds. If you haven't voted yet and your voting place is nearby, do the same. And then again, tomorrow, big show tomorrow. 2 big guests, Tom Ward, good friend, professional and personal of Governor Dan McKee. Knew him very well when he was Mayor McKee, stayed in touch with him as Lieutenant Governor. And then Steve Moore, the nationally renowned heritage economist. We'll talk about modern monetary theory and this massive COVID bailout giveaway that's coming soon from the federal government to states like ours. Steve Moore, Tom Ward tomorrow. We will see you then. Thanks for batting practice today and for playing ball.